said, look, buy a house with a 2-car garage and convert the garage to an ADU.
Wow.
And chances are almost whatever house you pick, even if you pick the worst house you can, or even if you overpay for the house a little bit, in the long run, you'll end up succeeding with that property. Welcome, everyone. This is our very first podcast. My name is Argi, and I'm here sitting with Claudio.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun podcast journey here. So, Argi, what's your story? When did you move to LA and begin your journey?
Yeah, so I moved to the US with my family in 2016. I had just turned 17, and about a year later, we moved into Glendale, California. I was 18 years old. I was able to work. I actually got my first full-time job as a software engineer. So nice. I come from the software background. It's been very interesting. I had a good start. I'm very grateful for the first software company that gave me a shot. I was really excited very passionate about building new projects. To me, it wasn't even like the software or the coding part. It was just the fact that I can just start something, 0 to 1. There's nothing, and now boom, there's something. Right. Now, after working a couple of years, I wasn't really spending any money. I mean, it was just really rent, family, supporting family a little bit, a little bit of travel, nothing much.
Right.
And so at some point, I kind of realized that, okay, I have a sizable nest egg now. Like, what do I do with that?
Right.
And then around 2018, 2019, I started looking into different investments, maybe stock market, real estate. Real estate in general caught my attention. Not exactly like the part where I can flip and make quick money, because I wasn't really thinking about short-term profits. I was just thinking, okay, well, what can I do so that after working really hard full time for a few decades.
Sitting in traffic for
2
hours.
Sitting in traffic, yeah.
Yeah,
or just behind a computer. What can I do so that, in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I can have some sort of financial independence and have a better life for myself, my family, my mom. Yeah, and so that's when I found out about real estate investing, the long-term investing, rental properties, Airbnbs. And that kind of got me into the world of construction, real estate development.
It opened up those doors, right?
Exactly, yeah. It was very slow at first, because in my first year, I just bought one property. It was actually out of state. I was just like, okay, I got to get started. I actually could afford at that time to buy something in LA. But it would have taken all of my money.
Right.
It wouldn't have afforded me a chance for a mistake. My first project, if I screw it up, I'm not going to get a chance to do a second project in a long time. So I was like, all right, let me start small.
That's smart of you, taking that risk and really dialing in and calculating that risk. Because, back to flipping, right? So I feel like the generic idea of real estate investing is, oh, I'm going to flip a house. Right. I feel like, when I was younger, that was the idea, right? Oh, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to flip houses, right? Like you said, it's so expensive here, and having that nest egg ready to make that investment, and it might be all your money that you've worked so hard for all those years, there's no room for risk.
Yeah.
Like you said, back to it, investing out of state, you made that decision wisely.
Right.
And what did that lead you to?
Yeah, good question. So there's a couple of ways to look at this. And when I'm in retrospect, of course, I would have done things differently, right? There is this difference between, so when you invest further away from your home, from your backyard, right? When you invest further away for different reasons, like because homes are cheaper or investments are cheaper, yes, you do get into it quicker and you learn and you make mistakes and you learn from them quicker, which is what happened with me. But of course, it is generally, in my opinion, from my experience, always better to invest in your own backyard where you have control, where you can learn.
Catch mistakes before they happen.
Exactly. So in my case, I wouldn't change a thing. I made a lot of mistakes. I've lost some money and made some money, but I would say that what I really, with my mistakes and any money I lost and any money I want, I'm net positive. But with any mistakes I've made, right?
The risk worked out.
Yes. What I've really done is I've paid for education.
You invested.
I invested
in yourself.
Exactly. Invested in myself. Paid for education basically with those mistakes.
Right.
And mistakes ranging in picking the wrong property or overpaying for something or making the wrong repair, picking the wrong tenant. Yeah, any number of things.
There's so many variables.
So many, yeah.
Sounds like you sold it, the one out of state?
No, I kept it for a long time, and then I had a partner who wanted to get into the space.
Okay.
And so we kind of joined in on a small portfolio of homes.
That first risk investment, did that bring you back to being able to purchase something in LA? Did you hold on to that as your first investment, learn, right? And then created a new nest egg
Right.
and then invested that into something at home in your backyard.
I would say in terms of the experience, the confidence, and the knowledge, yes. In terms of money, no. Because these were long-term investments. They weren't really supposed to make a lot of money immediately.
It wasn't a flip.
Right. It wasn't a flip. Exactly. Okay. Here's the mortgage. Here's the rent. Rent covers mortgage. There's plenty left over for repairs and cash flow. That's basically it.
Right.
So I did buy 2 properties out of state before I bought something in Southern California.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say that my experience buying that property in California, that was already like, okay, well, it's a big investment.
Yes.
It's a bigger investment than the other 2 combined.
Right. But at least you were going into that with new knowledge.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So the buying the property, researching, home inspection, escrow, title companies, working with real estate agents, none of that was new to me, right? So those were things I was already doing the 3rd time. It improved the odds, just like improved my luck. And actually
finding a good deal, under streamlining the process. We can go into my experience in a second. Mine was not streamlined.
Right.
It was my first time. So it's good that you were able to bring that knowledge and streamline the process and trust certain people when you made that massive investment here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a big investment. That's a big mortgage. What year was it when you bought here in LA?
2021, I think.
So at the time, we were fortunate enough to have lower rates.
Yes.
Gotcha. See?
Yes. The lower rates were great.
Yeah. Where did those go? But that's good that you were able to do that and achieve that for yourself. And then, if it's so difficult for people nowadays with higher interest rates, I would not be able to do it for myself these days.
Yeah.
I did it in 2020 and I locked in a 3% interest rate.
Nice.
And back to the streamlined process of having all the knowledge when you go into escrow or finding the right agent or, inspectors, whatever it might be. That was all new to me. And it was definitely an experience that I didn't enjoy. And I did put all my money into it.
Same.
So, you know what I'm saying? So it's like when all of a sudden, and it was not a turnkey house. It was a difficult decision to make, but I knew that at the time, real estate is your nest. It turns into your nest egg. It's your bankroll later in life. And I did want to have a family at the time, and it worked out. So what I did, I bought the house, and I felt like I had buyer's remorse. I really did. It's like you spend all your money, and it's like, oh man, so now how am I going to pay this mortgage? How am I going to do this? The banks think I can pay it, but at the same time, there's a lot of people that go through this, especially and how expensive this place is.
Yeah.
So I looked into other options on, okay, well, maybe I'll rent a room out, and that worked for a while. But then, here came a girlfriend, and it's like, well, I want my space, but I also want my mortgage to be paid for. So it's like, you can't have both, or can you?
Right.
So there's other options that I looked into, and it's something called an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit. And at the time, I didn't know what that was. And I had a lot of friends that are in this space of developing, and that's where I learned a lot of my knowledge from. I was thankful for that, and not everyone's able to have that knowledge, at their disposal. You got to dig deep into it. And, my friend had built an ADU on his property, and he told me he was renting it out for a great income, and he was using it to pay his mortgage. So it offset my mortgage.
Right.
And I think in the past you had told me that you had done something like very similar to that.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your journey with that whole ADU thing?
Before we bought our property, we had some other ideas. We were thinking about actually buying something in Palm Springs and making some improvements to it.
Yeah.
But then after talking to a broker based in Glendale, LA, they've been doing ADUs for a couple of years already. And this was already 2020, 2021. I don't remember when we actually had the conversation. And they were just very straightforward with me. I said, look, buy a house with a 2-car garage and convert the garage to an ADU.
Wow.
And chances are almost whatever house you pick, even if you pick the worst house you can, or even if you overpay for the house a little bit, in a long run, you'll end up succeeding with that property. I was like, okay. I didn't fully understand what that really means, because I was thinking some numbers like, okay, mortgages is this amount and rent will be this amount. But when you haven't lived it, you don't quite know what it actually means. So we closed on the house. I think we had maybe $5,000 or something left in the bank.
Crazy. Oh
Gosh. I was planning to have like $8,000 more, but then during escrow stuff came up and I had to put more money.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I was like, I have no other choice now.
Yeah.
So then, we had
it out.
very little. And actually, at that time, I was the only one bringing income. My wife, who was going to USC and she had just finished. She was actively applying for software engineering jobs, but she didn't have a job at that time.
Gotcha.
And she was applying, and we moved from an apartment to the house. And as soon as we moved in, maybe like in less than 20 days, she got a call and she got a full-time job.
Oh, wow.
Remote.
Wow.
So for a year before that, she was learning, she was working on her resume, portfolio. Yeah, and as soon as we moved in, it just like immediately just happened. So things
What a breath
really
of fresh air.
I know, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's stressful.
Yeah, and we're thinking about, so the same way you were thinking about the extra income, helping cover mortgage, we had a 2-car garage in the front of the house, which I'm pretty sure is probably your case.
Same,
too.
yeah.
Same.
Yeah, same layout. Yeah.
Are we neighbors? Is it the same,
maybe.
like track development?
I've seen you down my street. Yeah, exactly. Very, very similar houses here in LA.
Does your garage have a breezeway?
It does, yes.
No way.
No, excuse me, not a breezeway. I have a little alley that goes, I guess, is that the
It's a
term
breezeway, yeah. So you have a roof. The roof
It's not a connecting roof, and that's what I was...
It's not a okay.
Exactly. So I'm still learning. But you would have to go around the back. So it's a private entry.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So it worked out for me for privacy.
Yeah.
You know? But so you have a breezeway?
Yeah, we had a breezeway, exactly. And but it was, the roof was same roof, was connecting roof.
Gotcha.
Which actually is probably a good topic down the line. We can talk about why they have that breezeway, because I think there's an interesting story that I want to look into, because there's actually a reason why some people connected the roof, some didn't.
Okay.
So back to the ADU story, like why we did the ADU. So at that time, so again, we bought the house, we had no money, but now both me and my wife had jobs.
So it works.
Yeah, so we're able to like every month put some money towards
And
the
you
ADU.
knew that you wanted to build this ADU.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, so now all of a sudden you're making another investment, right?
Yeah, right
'Cause
after-
you're investing in your property that you just bought.
Yeah.
So you knew that there was a good outcome here,
Right.
right? So you did the research, and you knew that this was a good opportunity to invest in, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you're
Yeah.
building it, you invest.
Well, it took us quite a while to actually get it done. Not just because, well, I mean, there was permitting, which is its own beast, its own thing that we can unpack. So there was the planning and the permitting, and then there was the actual construction. For the construction, because we were really short on cash, at that time, we were essentially every month just taking some money out of our paycheck and just making progress. Right. So, okay, this month we do foundation. Next month we do for a little bit of framing. And next month, I don't know, I'm going to Home Depot and just buying
Figuring
whatever
it
I
out.
need to, bringing. So it took us some time to build it. Definitely, I mean, if I were to do it now, it would have been, maybe 5 times quicker.
with what you know now,
Right, exactly.
Much faster.
But it worked, and it was good. It was actually pretty solid. It was built better than the house. I mean, the
Wow.
house from the 50s. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was built in 52.
Nice.
So yeah, it was nice seeing new construction, Yeah. So that's cool.
So that happened. I think the difference between how you guys used your ADU and how we used our ADU. So you built the ADU to rent it out, right? For additional income.
Right. Exactly.
We did that. We built our ADU for the same purpose. But the kind of the funny thing is, because it took some time as I was building the ADU, I also had some other investments going on, not with my own money, but with partners, with friends who are looking at the stuff I'm doing, both with the ADU and also out of state.
Right.
Who at that time, low interest rates, everybody wants to
Exactly.
invest in something
Right.
or deploy capital,
Right.
into
Right.
something interesting. And so then I was like, okay, yeah, I would partner up with folks who would supply the money, who would provide the money, and we would go, partner up, go 50-50 in a company, and then we would buy some property, renovate it, rent it out as a long-term investment. So that all of that was happening, and I'm also working on the ADU, so I'm kind of busy with both. And by the time we're actually done with the ADU, my wife and I, we had some debt at that point. Of course, the mortgage was a lot, but besides the mortgage, we had some other debt we had accumulated that we're not really happy about, we're not proud of, and we're like, okay, we can definitely pay this off in like 2 years, just with our income, with our paycheck. But it was going to be really limiting us.
Right.
It would give
Lifestyle
us,
change.
Lifestyle change,
Right.
and I might have needed to take maybe some side job or a side gig to pay that off quickly. And so one day we're on a walk, and we're like, hey. And actually, my wife was like, what if we just sell the house? And I was like, but why? I mean,
You worked so
we
hard
just-
for it.
But I just built this ADU.
Yeah, exactly.
We just did this. And like our plan was to rent it out. But then we started on our walk in the neighborhood and we're thinking like, okay, what would actually happen if we sell?
Right.
So we basically just, by the time we got to the house, we decided that's
Wow.
what we're going to do.
Wow.
Just
Short
immediately
walk,
like
long
that.
walk?
It's like 15 minutes.
Long enough to decide
Long enough
that,
to
yeah.
decide that. Yeah, I mean,
That's a big conversation.
yeah, it was dark nighttime because it's the only time you can walk in
Yeah.
LA in the summer.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
95 degrees
Yeah.
at midnight. Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess the interesting part is the ADU worked out very well
Yeah.
when we went to sell.
Okay.
So when you're selling a house with the ADU in most markets in LA or in California in general, or outside of California, any high cost of living area where it's hard for, it's hard for families, especially new families, young couples with kids, for them to afford their first house, they love seeing the ADU because they know that, okay, they can move into the main house and either have the in-laws or the grandparents live in the ADU, help raise the kids, and also save on the additional rent. Or they can just rent that out to a tenant and that can help with their monthly mortgage.
Oh, interesting. You're right. Exactly. And that's, back to the whole renting thing.
Right.
That was my goal. So when I figured out that, I can build an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit,
Right.
I didn't understand it so much. And, we can get into that a little bit. You can rent that out
Right.
to somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody looking into building their own nest egg, not ready to buy their first house,
Right.
has an opportunity to get a taste of the American dream, which is living in a neighborhood, right? So living outside of a densely populated area, like an apartment building or things like
Right.
this. So renting that out to somebody is passive income. It's a source of income that can pay your mortgage, right? In my case, it was my mortgage, right? Like what you're saying, so when you were able to sell your home, the future buyer sees that as a great opportunity to help offset their initial mortgage amount, right?
Right.
So it's wise to, as a first-time buyer, if I knew at the time, like I should be shopping for a house with an ADU, right?
Yeah.
So it would help me as a first-time home buyer.
Right.
I would probably, if I wasn't so eager and willing to take the risk of building it myself, I would have rather done it that way and offset my mortgage at the time. So it sounds like you sold the house and it benefited the sale, right?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
It did. It absolutely did. We were in a neighborhood where pretty much the whole street was the same few layouts over and over again. So cookie cutter homes, right? Same like three bed, two baths, like 1,300 square feet. And you have the garages in the front. And when we sold our house, which was in, it wasn't in, we painted the walls, but it still had the same, kind of old style,
Sure.
Wood color, the stained cabinets, and it was renovated, but not brand new. Okay.
Right.
And so our house sold, I think probably maybe 150K, at least more
Oh, wow.
than what the neighboring properties within like a few month time frame. And it's important to talk about the cost too, because it's like, okay, well, you were able to sell it for 150K more, but what did you put it in? What did you invest in it?
Right.
Did you
Exactly.
put 200 and you got 150 back?
Right.
Well, that's not that good.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
crunching the numbers and making sure it was
Yeah.
a good decision to sell.
Right.
And in your case, I'm pretty sure you made
Yeah.
out. Yeah. What does it cost? Obviously you took your time with it.
Yes.
And you did your own research in
Yes.
doing that. At the time, obviously there's fluctuations in material costs and things like that all these years later. But what exactly did you spend at the time?
Yeah.
What was your investment?
So the total investment with all the architectural and planning, engineering, permitting, construction, all materials and labor.
That sounds like a lot of work.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything included was around 55,000.
Wow.
And the only things I did, which if I start listing, it'd be like, oh yeah, that's not all limit, that's a lot. Yeah. But I didn't actually do a lot of the work myself. I did the painting, which is kind of fun. It's small space, right? 400 square
Sure,
feet. It's not
sure.
that bad. I did the laminate floors, a couple of finishes, just myself. So I saved a few $1,000s that way.
Okay.
But yeah, all in, it was around 55,000 is what everything added up to. So yeah, you can kind of see we put 55 into it. We got about 150 extra.
So it appreciated the property.
It did. It absolutely did.
It's livable space.
Right. Yeah.
People can live in it.
It's legal. It has its own address. It has its own mailbox.
It's like a little house.
Exactly. It's
Very-
a little house.
right.
Well, that's actually how the buyers were describing it. And, we have the Ring camera, so I was able to listen. When people come and they talk.
Exactly.
They
Hopefully they said good things.
they were saying good things.
Good.
Yeah.
So you did a good job.
They were actually describing, it's like we get two homes for the price of one.
Exactly.
One big house and one little house.
And in LA,
Yeah.
that's a good deal.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
2 doors.
Yeah.
Two addresses. That's interesting.
2 mailboxes
Yeah.
and everything. Yeah. Anyways, I guess there's the breezeway, so they were separated.
So there's
A lot of
privacy.
private.
So that worked out great.
Yeah. I definitely believe that having an ADU, if you plan it right, if you don't overspend too much, in most cases for most homes, is a good investment, whether you want to do it for your own family, for your own in-laws, grandparents, parents, or just more space.
Or appreciating your house.
Exactly, just
Right.
improving the value of the home.
Right.
Or as a source of income like you did
Exactly.
for your house, right? So rent it out or improve the value of the property and sell it. It's good for many of those cases.
Yeah. And, in my case, like back to it, I've been renting it for almost 3 years now. And, LA prices are unheard of. If you're out of state and you hear these numbers, you're going to puke. It's bad. But you have to offset that cost of a mortgage as a homeowner.
Yeah.
But you know what? I rent mine out, and the renters that live in it or have lived in it, there's been 2 people in these years. They love the accessibility of it's right off the street. You're not going up an elevator. You're not seeing strangers in your complex. There's a lot of pros to it. And it's the same cost, if not, maybe a little more than an average 1-bedroom apartment in the same area.
Yeah.
And when I first rented mine out, we can talk about what that passive income is.
Yeah.
I rented mine out for $2,100.
Nice.
Yep. Everyone listening to that, it's expensive.
Yeah.
I get it. And again, the investment of me putting the work, the labor, the coordination, the permitting, the legalization of getting this tiny house built, it's not free, right? So you have to treat it as a business. You have to treat it as a landlord.
Yeah.
And as accommodating as I am to my renters, if anything, they see me, it's a friendly thing. You know, I don't overstep that boundary of I'm your landlord. You know, there's a time and a place for certain things, but it's really nice having friendly people and friendly faces that you can run into when you're on the street or whatever. And we do have that privacy. So we don't notice our renters at all.
Right.
But back to it, they have loved that experience. And we've built a private patio, private entrance. It's a studio. So it's a 405 square foot studio. And I didn't cut any corners when it came to the finishes. I wanted it to be something I would want to live in, right? And there's certain ways of going about it and making it nice enough to the point where you're happy, and it doesn't have to be, that normal 1-bedroom apartment that you're paying the same amount for that's a builder grade.
What finishes and amenities did you put in your ADU that made it stand out?
I really concentrated on the bathroom. It is a small space. And to be charging that amount, whether I was charging $1,500 a month or $2,100 a month, unfortunately, in this town, you pay for what you get. And I'm sure that carries over to other states and developments. But for my case, I wanted to make it beautiful. I took the bathroom, I made it a standard size bathroom, a walk-in glass door shower, tile going all the way up. It's all modern, looks black. It's a black tile. It's actually porcelain. We can get into that later, but there's a lot of materials that are very aesthetically pleasing that aren't that expensive. So it's just taking that extra step and putting in a little more research or a little more energy in making sure that's very nice. And it doesn't break the bank compared to other, comparable materials. I made it very beautiful, but I would say I did a rainfall shower in it. It's almost like a steam shower, big vanity mirror. One thing I really liked was remote blinds. So when you walk in, you can press a button and the blinds go up on all the windows. And it sounds expensive, but it's really not that bad. And so when renters would come and tour the property, they loved that. They loved having that modern feel and techie thing that is much better and sells better.
Felt like a home.
It felt like a home. It felt like a custom little home, right? And if you break it down, if you go and see what's available out there for the same price, you don't have that. So they really enjoy living there as renters. And I think as a renter too, in the past, you always look for that homey feel, right? You want a good feeling when you come home after a long day of work and things like that. And I really think that coming to an ADU as a renter, there's so many pros to it. You park right up next to it. You have a flat walk.
Yep.
Most of the time, there's different builds, but in my case, and I'm assuming your case, it's an easy walk straight to that unit. And it's like you're in your own little home, So I think it's really good for renters. And talking about renters, I mean, there's so many different types of renters that I think would benefit from an ADU. Traveling nurses are one of them. You could Airbnb. There's a whole world of rental opportunities if you are in the position to be able to build one for yourself.
Right.
I think you won't miss is my point.
Yeah.
You won't miss. There's so many different options to be able to rent it out as an investment and a return of passive income. So tell me more about like where your job led you to be. As you can see, I mean, you have a company now.
Yeah.
So where did that come from?
Yeah, our company's Gather ADU. We've been in the space for about 3 years. And if you remember, I was saying about my journey in real estate, kind of how I started in rentals. And what I was doing is, so at the same time as I was thinking about the ADU and spending some money on our ADU, I was also putting together like deals, like long-term rental property deals, both in California and also out of state with some partners and other investors. And what we would do is we wouldn't do flips, but we would buy properties at a discounted price because they needed a lot of work.
Right.
Sometimes they're vacant, sometimes they're tenant occupied, where the previous owners were not taking care of them. So we would buy them for a good price, renovate them. A lot of times, renovate them while the tenants are there, and they would really love that.
Yeah,
so we would move them from room to room, basically, and then go and do a makeover in each room. It was very tricky. It's really hard to renovate when other people are living there. But we made it work, and then we would, increase the price, not all the way, but a little bit, where it was a win-win for everybody.
Right.
And then we would refinance, so take some cash out, take our initial investment out, and we would go and repeat the same process.
Now, you were talking about debt earlier in our conversation. It sounded like there's two types of debt, right? You have bad debt that you want to pay off right away. Yeah. And then like what you're saying right now is an investment.
Yeah.
You're pulling money out of a property as an investment. Now, you're turning that into good debt. Right? You're refinancing that property, right?
Yeah.
There's multiple different ways of doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that this will lead into the conversation of how you can build an ADU on your
True.
property.
True.
But yeah, keep going. It sounds like you made a wise choice. You pulled some money out.
Yeah. So every property that I bought or, we bought, we have refinanced already. So far, it's over a dozen with partners at this point. And after renovating, placing a tenant in there, we would then go back to the bank, do an appraisal, refinance, and almost always it would have been better. Now, in the beginning of our conversation, I did mention about mistakes.
Yeah, they happen.
So a few of these projects did not go well. And actually it has to do with permitting.
Permitting?
Yes.
Okay.
Not specifically about ADUs, but I did have...
permitting for the property?
For the property, yeah.
Okay.
So a few of the properties, well, one property in particular being really, really horrible, actually. But one of the properties we purchased, it had issue with the city that was not caught during the initial due diligence process, during the research process. And, that would not happen. I would not do that mistake now.
But you learned something.
I learned something, exactly.
Right.
And so that one particular project, that cost me personally about $50,000.
Oh, wow.
And so at that time, I didn't quite have the cash to fix that. Basically, the story is that it was a deal that was too good to be true, essentially. And thankfully, we ended up breaking even. Ended up breaking even on it. So I was able to recoup about a year later, though.
Oh, wow.
I was able to recoup that initial approximately $50,000 I lost. But the issue was essentially the previous owners from like 7 years ago, they had renovated that property without pulling permits. They did not hire an architect. They didn't hire an engineer. They went and built this beautiful...
That's obviously illegal.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do that. All right. Get the permits, get the inspections. I always say if you're going to spend a lot of money already making the property really beautiful, getting the permits is only going to cost you a few extra percent if you do it right.
Right.
Sure, it's going to take some time.
But the outcome,
exactly,
is rewarding.
Exactly. You're not going to have an issue. And I mean, the previous owners that sold me that property, they lost money on it, right? But they just didn't want to put up with the city and fix it.
So their mistakes ultimately costed them.
Right. It did.
Okay.
And my mistake was not doing the research.
Right.
I would have still bought it, but maybe for cheaper.
Right, exactly. Exactly. You have to be calculated.
Right.
And, obviously those mistakes happened, but you learned from them, and the permitting process paid off.
Yeah, exactly.
At least cut even.
Yeah.
And helped with that, right?
Yeah. So that permitting and real estate experience combined with this newfound concept of ADUs, accessory dwelling units, to me was like, okay, I know I can make a difference here and I can help other people. Maybe not specifically in the construction or, how to build a beautiful kitchen and things like that, but specifically in the permitting, right? And so then I decided that where I can really be useful to people is by helping them get their permits for their ADU projects.
These builds, right.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Because actually, when I was doing permitting for my very first ADU, at that time, even though it was already 2021, you would think that the cities would know about the process or architects would know about the process. What I found was, I got my plans approved, but to pull a permit, I still had to go through so many departments and get stuff done. And there wasn't like one person or one source that could just tell me like, what do I need to do so I can start building on Monday? Like, what do I need to do?
I see.
Right? It's like, okay, well, you got to do this, go to this department or go to the sewer department, get a will serve letter. What is that?
What happens? That's time.
Right.
That's so much time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then I was starting to understand, like, wait a second. The fact that I just got my plans done, I spent thousands of dollars on an architect, was that not enough? What do you mean corrections to my plans?
Right. What does that mean?
Right. It's like there were all these things. And that's when the idea for a company that helps homeowners specifically navigate the maze that is permitting. Okay. And we started with ADUs.
You want to do it right.
Yeah.
I mean, as a homeowner, you want to do it right. And if it's not easy to do it right, it almost makes it too difficult to make it worth it to even move forward with your passive income opportunity or investment, with your project. So I think it's brilliant that you came up with this plan and executed it great. And look at you now. You have a great company and people are interested in using your services, right? It's amazing. So what is the process that you offer through the permitting process? What exactly do you offer? How does it work?
Yeah, a good question. So the most popular service that we offer is A to Z permitting, typically for accessory dwelling unit projects of different kinds, garage conversions, junior ADUs, new constructions.
Gotcha. So we talked about our personal garage conversions.
Right.
So it sounds like, and as we know, there's other options.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So when you said junior ADU,
right,
and then you can have a detached ADU, right? So we could break it down.
Yeah.
They're all little houses.
Right.
Ultimately, right?
Yeah.
They're just either attached in a pre-existing garage, for example, as a garage conversion. And then we have a detached unit. So that's a ground up build. It's like, in basic terms, a guest house.
Yeah.
Right? And then you said something about a junior ADU. What exactly is a junior ADU?
Yeah, so junior ADU is very similar to an ADU, but in California, it's essentially a separate category of housing where you're limited to only 500 square feet. It has to be within the existing space of the house or the garage. So you can't build it like a detached, like a separate junior ADU. It has to be within the main
structure.
Does
it have to be attached though?
So it can't be a new footprint. So it can't be a ground up. So basically it has to be a conversion. So let's say, we have some homeowners we've worked with who have bought a house that had 2 master suites, right?
Gotcha.
And they're like, look, we don't need 2 master suites. It's just us and the kids, And so they would take one master suite that already has a bathroom, already has a nice large bedroom that could turn into a studio. So we would add a kitchenette, separate that unit, right? Make some repairs here and there. And then in a very cost-effective way, that would become its own unit that they can then go and rent out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, that's very cost effective. So if you have that extra space now and you don't want to lose your garage, right?
A lot of people don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a struggle at times. It's not a perfect world when it comes to doing a garage conversion.
Right.
But having a junior ADU is a great idea too if you have that additional space.
Yeah.
So that's good that we're talking about that. There's multiple different options that a homeowner or investor on a property can make with these different ADUs. And back to the permitting process, each one of these, I'm sure, takes different permitting steps, right?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because you have to be creative in a way too for the city to understand what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. And no 2 projects are the same for us. So essentially we treat every project, in its own. and we analyze. So when homeowners approach us, with their goals of what they want to do, sometimes they're like, look, I just want to figure out what is the most I can do. Can I put 2 ADUs? I want to maximize the rental income.
Can you do that?
Yeah, actually you can.
Wow.
Yeah, in many places you can now, and we have done that. So we have done as many as 4 units. So turning one single family home into 4 units, and it's possible on some lots and in some cities. LA is one of the best places in the US to do ADUs.
To my understanding, it's because the lack of housing, right? I mean, the city, from what I understand, is looking into creating more affordable housing, right? So more units for people to rent and live in, right?
Yeah.
Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's sort of a statewide initiative, right? So it's a statewide laws that were passed starting a couple of years ago, since around 2019, 2020, right? When, you started, and I started looking into ADUs. But it's a statewide initiative. And my understanding of the whole idea of ADUs and why the state of California and other states, by the way, like Oregon, Washington, recently Massachusetts.
They're adopting this?
Right. They adopted similar ADU programs, which in some of these places we've also done ADUs in. But of course, mainly it's California, right? California is doing ADUs.
So there is an option of using your services out of state as well.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. We recently did one in Seattle. We've done in Georgia and Atlanta.
Wow. So you're navigating all these different permitting processes with the codes that the cities are requiring.
Well, and the cool part is, in every new city or new type of project that we do, we build a system that we can repeat. So next time we can do it quicker, more efficiently.
Gotcha.
Right? And more affordably, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So back to the question about affordability. In a place like LA, we have so much suburb, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of single family homes, but there's a lot of demand for multifamily. And so building ADUs is what some people call, and I like to call, gentle density, right? So it adds density without...
on that existing footprint.
Right, exactly.
Right.
On that street. So imagine you have a street and you bought your house primarily because you didn't want to be in a very urban, dense area. Right. So in my head, I always think okay, well, what would I want? Would I want a 12-unit apartment complex right next to my house?
Right. No.
Right? No. Or would I want the same house, my neighbor's house, but in the backyard where I can't really see, there is an ADU. Or maybe the garage is in the ADU.
Right.
The biggest problem some neighborhoods is parking, which I think is, we got to talk about that too. But, it is parking. Unfortunately, it's going to be more of an issue.
And things may change in the future. And it's,
self-driving cars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's something, laws come and change. Regulations come and change. This wasn't always a thing in Los Angeles or in other close states. We don't know where this is going to go, but in the time being, there's a lot of opportunity for first-time homeowners, investors as well. But yeah, back to it. I think it's gentle housing in a sense of you don't really notice it, which I like. And my garage didn't change. Like, my garage footprint's still there.
Did you keep the garage door?
I did not.
You did not?
I did not.
I like that. I didn't either.
It has 2 beautiful windows and it looks like part of the house. So I didn't want my neighbors to feel like, oh my gosh, this guy's putting in an apartment. I have respect for my neighbors, and I would want the same respect coming from somebody that's building one as well. So there is a right way of going about it. And things are changing. Parking is definitely an issue. There will be, I'm sure, regulations put in place at some point for it. But in the time being, it is what it is, and that's what the state's saying it is. So I think this whole ADU idea is a great idea for people that are first-time home buyers or current homeowners. What exactly, at least in my case, when I first did this, and you did too, it was so difficult to find an architect, to find an engineer, to find that just overall permitting process and what it takes to deal with the city. And there are corrections, there are errors on plans and things like that just prolong the whole system, and months go by and you're not breaking ground. And it's so frustrating. So what can somebody that's watching this do? What's their first step, and how can they go about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing generally is to understand the nuances of permitting in your own city for your own zone. And it's not that hard to do. You can start talking to the city. Hopefully you find somebody good at the planning department to help you basically arm yourself with as much information as you can before you start talking to other people like architects and contractors, right? So what we do at Gather ADU is we help homeowners. Homeowners find us online, they search something. Sometimes even ChatGPT recommends us, which is actually kind of cool. It feels good every time. The homeowners come to us and they either are, not sure where to start, or they know exactly what they want to do. And I love that. They're like, oh, I have a garage. I want to convert my garage to an ADU, or I have this large backyard. I want to put a really nice 3-bedroom ADU, right? So there's different kinds of ADUs people can build and different ways to go about doing that. What we do is we specialize in helping homeowners from the beginning to end, from A to Z. So we do the planning, we do the design, we work with homeowners to find that ideal layout, the ideal site plan positioning of the ADU that is the best combination of their budget, their goals, and also their property, their lot, right? And all of this while making sure it's actually compliant with city and state regulations.
So again, reiterating this, you offer that full A to Z service.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. Planning, engineering, permitting, so dealing with the city, and then eventually construction.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So they can stay tuned on our new podcast.
Yes.
And they can learn much more what's to come. And again, you offer this amazing service, and I wish I knew about it when I first started. So for whoever's watching this, we appreciate you, and we look forward to the next episode. Thank you.